A week ago last Friday, an incident occurred outside a DC nightclub that was described by the police chief as a savage case of vigilante justice. 5 men have been charged with assault in this case, in which a man allegedly threw bricks through the club's window and was then reportedly beaten by a co-owner and by club employees. He died after the incident occurred. It's a sensational investigation with a lot of moving parts. Joining us now in studio is Kathy Lanier. She is chief of the Metropolitan Police Department in the District of Columbia. Chief Lanier, welcome. Good to see you.
I'm glad to be back.
A week after this incident, what is this investigation all about to you?
I know there's a lot of people that are curious and want additional information, but unfortunately, with an ongoing investigation, there's very little I can say. Consistently, what I normally will say about crimes like this is whatever is in the charging document. Well, that's a public record. So I try and keep within the guidelines of what was in the charging document. That's all been in the press. So any additional information beyond that, other than are awaiting the final report from the medical examiner, really I can't comment on.
In D.C., Lisa, you are now on the air. Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to make a comment regarding Chief Lanier's remark earlier in the show where she said that she is not able to speak beyond what's on the booking card regarding incidents, specifically regarding DC9. And I find that completely at odds and a bit hypocritical regarding her comments, or considering her comments that she made at the press conference the morning after that incident, where she publicly assigned guilt and made some rather inflammatory remarks regarding the 5 suspects. Allegedly was nowhere in her vocabulary, as it was in yours earlier today, Kojo. And I do believe that her inflammatory remarks have caused a lot of sensationalism around this story. And the last I checked, we live in a country where you are innocent until you are proven guilty. And Chief Lanier has not allowed that for the 5 suspects in this case. And now she's backpedaling and saying, well, she can't comment.
Well, I'm not going to backpedal from anything I say. Certainly nothing I say on a news interview. I've got people that are passionate about this case on both sides, and I've gotten a lot of calls from people on both sides. And, there's a 27-year-old man that has lost his life and has got a wonderful family, and it's devastating to everybody involved. And, in terms of my comments at the news conference, I always try my best to stick to a particular script and stay specific with only the language in the charging document. Sometimes I don't.
Is that saying you didn't say something correctly then?
No, but here's the context with which this comment was made. In the interview, when we talked about the charging document, that what witnesses described as chasing down and attacking, and in witness statements, kicking and stomping the victim. So in context, when my response was to the reporter was, well, why would they chase this guy down like that? It was in response to him putting a brick through the window. So,
And that's when you use the words vigilante. It appeared to be vigilante
yes.
justice. Because I would think, well, I've talked to my son who's in business in that same area, and I discussed this with him in terms of, what would you do if someone attacked your business? And he said he would call 911.
Well, we always ask the public not to get involved because it could turn out the other way. I mean, the same thing could happen in the other.
Pulled.
Yes, I mean the business owners too. We tell business owners all the time, it's not worth getting hurt trying to chase down somebody who could possibly be armed. So it could go bad in either direction. It's just the whole thing is very unfortunate for everybody.
Will you stop trying to get a plug for your son's business in every time you do
I
this
did not
show?
name.
Oh, okay.
I did name the name of Solly's at the bar on 11th and U.
Here is Lisa again. Lisa, here's what's of interest to me and how this thing seems to break down. Are you a patron of DC9? Do you consider yourself friends with the owner and employees?
I do know them.
And that's how this thing tends to break down.
Although it doesn't devalue their concern about it. I mean, they're concerned about their friends who are involved in some legal wrongdoing. We just don't know what the severity of it is yet.
But when Chief Lanier said there are passions on both sides of the issue, the passions tend to go along with the people who either have friendships on one side or connections on the other side. We got this email from Mark who says, I'd like Captain Lanier, I'd like Chief Lanier to talk about punitive responses against bars and nightclubs in the city. I realize that there are some unscrupulous nightclub owners who cut corners and bend the rules, but from what I've heard, the folks at DC9 were generally considered to be straight shooters, whatever that means. Is it fair that these establishments automatically end up going out of business when something bad happens in or around them? I'm thinking of the H Street Martini Lounge. Cliff, the owner, was a solid guy who had been a guest on this show too. But just because someone was stabbed on his premises, the bar was forced to close down. Shouldn't law enforcement lighten up a little bit?
Well, I use that authority, and the authority is not to close down or take a license. I don't have that authority. The authority is for 96 hours, an emergency closure, and it was created after there was a homicide inside of a alcohol establishment. And so what my role is if there is a violent crime where somebody is injured, and that's the criteria I use, in typically serious injury, the emergency closure is for 96 hours, and then it's up to the Alcohol Control Board to make decisions beyond that on the club. So I don't put people out of business, and I use that very lightly. 4 years, I think I've used it about 6 times, 7 times.
Thank you very much for your call, Lisa, and for your email, Mark.